Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. The basic building blocks of law of attraction. I wanted to cover these because, one, when you know the basic building blocks, you can start to understand, one, how techniques tend to work. Two, how to kind of monitor ourselves a little better than we currently do. So I'm hoping by giving these specifics, these specifics too, but the building blocks, there's three core aspects that go into manifesting. And I'm going to cover them and the strength of their effectiveness, if you will, right? So of the three, the weakest of them is what you think about. So I'll say them real quick, the three of them: what you think, what you say, what you do. We're going to cover all three of them. These are how manifestations occur. This is it. This is the secret. This is all of this stuff, law of attraction, all of this stuff comes from these three avenues. So the weakest is what we think about. Now, most of us spend a larger part of our day in our minds, thinking about things, thinking about what we're interested in, thinking about what we're going to eat for dinner, thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow. But we also sometimes think about how we're inadequate, sometimes think about how people didn't love us properly, sometimes think about how someone should text me but they haven't, somehow think about things where maybe we should have turned left instead of right. And so a lot of times the thinking process kind of goes out of control, is unconscious. Now, just because you are not consciously choosing your thoughts, by no means does that mean that law of attraction is not occurring. No, to the contrary. As I've done a video on, when does law of attraction work? When is it not working? Law of attraction is working 100.0% of the time. I'm not rounding up. 100% of the time, law of attraction works. Now, people have asked me, what about when you dream? I honestly don't know. That's a really awesome question. I don't really know. Technically speaking, you're communicating to yourself, I think, from another area. So if someone's talking to you and you're listening, is that manifesting? I don't think so. So I think it's our higher self generally, or other people's higher selves, communicating with us. And so I don't necessarily believe that dreams themselves are creative, but I do believe that dreams are very indicative of creations that are occurring or problems that are lying within us or things along those lines. So again, dreams kind of off the table for a moment, only in that that's not quite really a conscious choice. So whenever we're conscious, if you're in a coma and you're not thinking at all, are you creating? Probably not, right? But what your thoughts are, what you're thinking about, what you're thinking about doing, the discussions you're thinking about having with others, it's really where all the imaginal imagery type stuff comes into. When you start imagining stuff, well, you're using that thinking component. Now, it is the least strong, and it works very well, as many of you will attest. Thinking is an extremely powerful form of creation. And again, maybe weaker, but we spend more time doing it. So from a standpoint, maybe that kind of helps balance it out. But whatever the case is, we spend a lot of time thinking about things. And it's the times where we think negative thoughts, the times where we think less of ourselves, the times where we think so-and-so's not going to do something because they're angry or because of, right? These are thoughts. These are little conversations we have in our brain, and those are creative. So we need to make sure that when we are using our thoughts, and certainly if we're hoping to create an outcome, try to use our thoughts in a direction that move us towards what it is that we seek. I've frequently talked about, if you want to put power towards a future, you think about what that reality is. You think about what you would like to experience. You don't think about what's going on right now. You don't worry about what happened yesterday. You don't worry about who the third party is right now. That doesn't matter. Right now isn't as important to tomorrow as tomorrow is, right? So don't let your thoughts of right now create more right nows tomorrow. Instead, catch your thoughts. Focus them on where you'd like to go. If there's a third party right now, all right, well, think about you and this person, you and George being together. And in that reality that you're imagining, that you're thinking about, George is single. He's not with anyone. So I don't care what's happening right now. You're speaking to the George, you're thinking to the George in the future that has no ties, that has no relationships, that certainly has plenty of bandwidth to spend time with you, that has feelings for you, that loves you unlike no one else. All the different things that we like to think about, make sure that you're projecting those out to your tomorrow and thinking about George in that regard, rather than, well, George is currently dating Irene, and I don't really know if there's much of a chance. Right, you're screwing yourself right there. So catch yourself and realize that thoughts are power. And if you're spending time thinking about things that are not bringing you happiness, first off, if you're thinking about things that aren't helping towards your manifestation, if you're thinking about things that make you angry, like politics or some of the crazy stuff going on in this world, just understand that you're using your precious resource to bring about more of something that you may not want. So thought is very powerful, and oddly, the weakest of the very powerful things. Number 2, what you say. Now, we're going to caveat this a little, and it doesn't change the truth of it. It's just there's some confusion around the concept of speaking stuff, because we frequently, as law of attraction coaches, and I'm going to say it again, and I'll give some explanations as to why, but we frequently talk about how it's a bad idea to talk about your manifestations with others. That means it's not as smart to talk to others about what it is that you're currently trying to create. It doesn't say that talking about what you're trying to create is bad. It says talking to others. Now, let me explain why talking to others before we get into why talking is a good thing. The reason talking to others causes problems for us is because when you talk to other people, and I'm going to assume the best case scenario. We're going to assume the person that actually has your best interest at heart, that actually cares about you, and actually wants to see you succeed. So your best friend, right? And you're talking to your best friend. You're like, yeah, so I'm really interested in Monica. I really want to be with her. I think there's a chance. I've learned about this new law of attraction thing, and if I spend time thinking about stuff and talking about stuff, and right, it's going to put power towards creating it. So Monica and I are definitely going to be together. Now, she's currently not talking to me. Don't say that, but this is the conversations we have with our friends. One of the reasons why it's not a good idea. But Monica and I, we're going to be together. I can see it. I can see our first child. It's probably going to be a brunette, the first one, the boy. And then I see a girl probably 2-3 years later, and it's just going to be awesome. And we're going to have this wonderful life, white picket fence, the whole 9 yards. Now, your friend will invariably be like, oh, that is so awesome. This law of attraction thing you're talking about, that sounds really, really, really cool. Awesome. Great. Yeah, let me know how that goes, right? And you're like, totally, going to totally do it. So you might even be saying, so what I'm trying to do is I'm going to manifest a text message from them. We haven't talked in a while, or they texted me once, or I'm going to manifest them asking for my phone number, or just set up a scenario where they can communicate with me. And your friend's like, dude, that's awesome. That is awesome. I can't wait to hear more about it. You're like, so you'll be like, all right, well, Monica and I are supposed to bump into each other. We're going to be in a mutual place tomorrow. I'm going to put some magic on this. I'm going to imagine her asking me. I'm going to do my mojo, and I'm going to make it so. And your friend's like, awesome. Tell me tomorrow how it goes. And you'll be like, done. Totally happening. So tomorrow comes and goes. You maybe go to your little thing. Maybe you get some eye contact with Monica. Maybe she talks to you even. But she doesn't ask you for your phone number. Not yet anyway, but it didn't happen yet. But to your point, to your credit, progress has been made. You hadn't talked to her at all. Here you are finally talking to each other, sort of, right? And like the ball's kind of rolling, just maybe not as quickly as you were hoping. And a lot of us do this. We try to, run before we can walk, or we try to imagine things are much, much closer than how timing sometimes needs to be for things to play out. But anyway, so your friend approaches you and be like, so, how'd the talk go with Monica? Are you, did she hit you up for your phone number? No, but we chatted and we talked and stuff. Oh, that's awesome. But she didn't ask you for your number though, huh? No, she didn't ask me for my number. Do you see where we're already going? I'm talking about something now in not as positive a sense. I'm talking about something kind of more in the negative sense. And it's because my friend who cares and adores me and loves me and is really interested in my best interests is asking questions about something that I was trying to manifest. And unfortunately, because of the way it played out thus far, I'm not able to tell him what I'd like to tell him. But, I tell him the truth. I tell him the reality of it. No, we're not together right now. No, we're not this. No, we're not that. And if this happens 2, 3, 4, 5 times, eventually your friend is going to start asking you questions about whether this law of attraction stuff works. And again, If you don't want to believe in it, don't. I am not here to tell you to believe in it. I'm here because I believe in it, and I'm talking about it because I believe in it. But if you don't believe in it, don't believe in it. That's fine. I don't want to change your views on it per se. My point is that every time your friend keeps asking you and then starts to wonder, is my friend crazy? Are you sure this law of attraction stuff works? Because you keep telling me all this stuff and I'm not seeing it happen. You're not telling me it's happening. It's not happening. And you're like, no, totally works. It's super powerful. I know it does. And you're like, all right, where's the proof? Right? They always say the proof's in the pudding. Where's the pudding? I want to see the proof. I'm not seeing it. So again, when you talk to people about what you're trying to manifest, you're invariably asking them to question you. That's really what you're doing. And in questioning you, one, it's going to force you to talk about the present, which that's not what we're manifesting, as I've spoken about. And they'll also put doubts in your mind. And for rightly so. Same doubts that we're going to come up with all on our own. And maybe I just finally worked through one of those doubt cycles, through a couple affirmations, reimagined it, and be like, no, everything's working out. Man, there's doubts. They happen, whatever. It's okay. We're good. Life's good. I can see it happen. And then your friend walks up and asks you the very same question, and maybe in a slightly different way. And now you're like, damn, here I am again, questioning this. So, is talking to people beneficial? As a rule, no. As a rule, it will get you talking in places you really don't want to be. And being that talking is the number 2 most powerful thing, or the second weakest, maybe. No, the least, whatever. It's in the middle, right? So it's not the most powerful and it's not the least powerful way to manifest. It's right in the middle. And so what we want to do, and how we want to use this, is we talk. One, you can talk out loud to yourself. That's very helpful because, one, you hear yourself saying the things. That is an extra set of senses, if you will, that helps you manifest because you're hearing this truth that you're speaking, and it helps kind of really sink it in. But 2, it's that talking about like your friend, you're like, the same friend, maybe you've told her that you're interested in Monica. You don't need to get into all the specifics about what you're trying to manifest. It's not an issue of talking to other people doesn't necessarily make it positive or more powerful. It's talking about the manifestation that is actually powerful. Not what you're trying to create, but what is being created, what is going to happen. So for example, I'm going to be a millionaire, and we keep talking about when I've got millions of dollars, or I'm totally going to get my private pilot's license. It costs some money, but I'll be able to afford it. That's totally coming. That's happening. I see these things happening. I've already kind of looked into a couple schools. Boom. There's one example of, I love flying personally, right? And being a millionaire would certainly help that. So by talking about the things that I'm going to do when I finally got more income, yeah, totally helpful towards it. Even if I'm talking to my friend, because my friend knows that I'm driven, that I'm planning on making more money, that it's going to happen. Don't know what pace and don't know what speed, and I'm not trying to tell him that. I'm not saying I'm going to be rich by next month. No, I'm just telling him that I'm definitely going to be way more successful than I currently am, and that's my plan. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working towards. Now, if he catches you where you're just playing video games all day and he's calling you out, and you're like, I thought you wanted to be a millionaire, dude, and you're like, well, I do. I'm going to start making YouTubes on playing games, right? Like, okay, all right, shoot. All right, good for you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. But otherwise, if you're not out there beating the street or whatever the heck you're supposed to do, then maybe he's going to call you out. And that's good. But again, talking about it. You're talking about how, Santa Barbara, beautiful place. It's where I'm going to go with my girl. I'm so looking forward to it. There's an awesome place right up by the beach, over by the pier, that I totally want to go. There's an awesome seafood place on that pier. In fact, that is amazing fresh seafood. If you've never been there, by the way, in Santa Barbara, right on the pier, oh my God, it's so good. So again, you talk about things that you're doing. You're talking about your plans. You're talking about your, living in the end concepts. You're talking about how certain things would be wonderful, how you know that she enjoys this color, so you've actually picked up a couple pieces of furniture that are orange because she likes orange furniture, right? It's that kind of stuff. It's talking about it. Talking about what you're doing with your life. And yeah, other people may be involved with that. Maybe Jacqueline's going to be in there with me, or Suzanne, or whatever, right? So it's okay. Talk about it from that standpoint. But when you get into the nitty-gritty details with other people, that's where you're really asking for it. They don't need to know the nitty-gritty details. You do. That's all that matters. And let the universe figure it out. Don't be putting all this stuff into other people's heads that's going to bounce off and start asking you questions that you're just not one, you don't want to hear, and two, maybe you're not prepared to answer. And they might ask tough questions that you haven't even asked yourself yet, in which case you're like, oh man, like I didn't even realize that. So again, what you're talking about, super powerful, super duper powerful. Super powerful is thinking, super duper powerful is talking about it. So make sure when you're talking about stuff, you're using that to the best of your abilities. It's a very, very powerful way to create. And if you're wasting time talking about things that are not bringing you towards your goal, talking about things that are not helping your attitude or your energy or your feelings about life in general, probably not benefiting you, probably in fact causing you harm. Remember, talking all the time, 100%, law of attraction's turned on. So whatever you're talking about, if that's not putting energy towards a thing that you wish to experience more of, then you're doing the contrary and you're not helping yourself. Something to consider. All right, last, certainly not least, what you do. Doing is the most powerful form of manifestation that you can perform. Doing is the one that's sometimes a little trickier because a lot of times people are like, well, how do you do what you don't have? How do I do something when I don't have it? How do I do something that I want, but I don't have it? And doing is really more of a acting as if you already have it. This is truly living in the end. I mean, the technique living in the end is speaking specifically about the doing component. There's certainly a thought process to it, don't get me wrong, but it's the doing aspect of it. It is when you're looking at life and you're like, we're going to be, well, actually a better way to put it, because living in the end can actually be more of a thought thing, so I apologize for that. But from the standpoint of cleaning out your room, making sure you've got an extra spare set of towels for when they come to visit, they can, use your shower with no issue. Maybe make sure you've picked up some shampoos and conditioners for him or her, depending on who's coming over. Maybe make sure you've got a drawer cleaned out where they can put their clothes or some of their clothes. Maybe you finally clean really well because you want them to be able to come over, rather than your place is a mess and they hit you up like, hey, would you want to be able to hang out? And you're like, no, don't come to my house now. Shoot, I used to do that. I was bad about cleaning. I worked a lot of hours, right? So I was bad about cleaning. And there was times where I had people that were like, hey, can I come over? And I'm like, no. And so, again, it creates that scenario in your life where I'm not really open for business, am I? So doing is making sure that you're open for business, that you've got everything covered. If you are talking about having a relationship with somebody else, then in your thought process, in your doing, I should say, you're making room for them. You are already planning how things are going to start to happen with them. The concept, people have brought this up, setting plates on your table for another person to be there. Even some person actually was like, wow, and I serve dinner on those plates. I don't recommend that because if they're not there, they're not there. But putting the plate out is inviting and welcoming to that. Putting food out is just a waste of food, right? So, if you want to, whatever, that's fine. But generally speaking, I see putting the plate out, the place setting out as a good thing. Put an extra glass there for them so they could have a glass of whatever it is you're pouring. These are things that you can do that are inviting towards this future. But on top of that, if you're wanting to do something that, say you want to be in a relationship, and currently right now you don't really make enough money to really afford a relationship, can't really afford to take anyone out on a date, don't really have a place, like you're living at home with your mom, maybe you're living in her attic, right? Don't really have a place to bring her over to. So get yourself into a place with a job or something where you have a little extra income and can afford to maybe take her out on a date, or maybe afford one day a week to be able to go out to a place that maybe they show up. Maybe they like to show up to a pub on Wednesday nights, right? So Wednesday nights, you make yourself available and you've saved a couple extra bucks. Now you can actually go out and you can spend time at that pub and maybe bump into her. But now you're doing something that's towards your manifestation. So what is it that you can do? Are there things that you don't have that you keep kind of using as a crutch? Like, well, when I finally get something done, I'll be able to do this. Do that thing now. Stop waiting until later. Do the action, because if you do the action, one, you're telling the universe, hey, I'm serious about this. Two, you're telling yourself, hey, I'm serious about this. And three, you're taking care of stuff that needs to get taken care of. That's something that needs to be done because it needs to be taken care of. So do it. Doing is extremely powerful. It is when we're physically, sun energetically doing and being something at the same time. When you are being that which you wish to attract, now you're vibrating at that energy. Now you're attracting that same vibration. That projection you're pushing out is more of what it is that you're trying to get back, because that's what you're doing. It is extremely powerful. So if a lot of us are putting things off because, well, he's not here yet, maybe you need to buy a couple new pair of underwear, a couple nice pair of underwear, so when they do see them, they're not embarrassing and full of holes and the elastic's all jacked up and they're falling down, or maybe you don't even wear any, and maybe that's a good thing. Who knows? But again, it's one of those things where make sure you're doing it now. Make sure you've got it now before you actually need it. Kind of like when you're trying to get a new job and you don't necessarily have any good interview clothes. And you're like, well, I'll wait till I have an interview to get the clothes. No, get the clothes before you even line up the interview. That way, when the interview comes, if it's a spur of the moment, they're like, can you come in today? You're like, done. Hang on, let me change into my interview clothes and I'll head on down there. Versus, yeah, let me call Amazon, or let me hook up with the mall. Let me go down to the Ross or whatever store you'd go to and buy clothes at. Like, instead of having to wait to do something so you can do the thing you already know you need to do, have the prerequisite work done. Do it. Have it taken care of in advance. Telling the universe, look, I'm committed to you, you commit to me. It's kind of how it works. Doing is the most powerful way that you can behave and manifest stuff. So remember, what you think, weakest but still very strong. What you say, very awesome. Just be careful who you talk to about what, and what you do. Don't put stuff off until tomorrow if you can do it today. If there's something you can do. Someone left a comment. It was funny. I'm really behind on comments right now, and I apologize to all of you. But someone put in a comment, and they talked about how they were trying to manifest a situation with this specific person, right? And they parked someplace, and then they did something, and then they asked for a sign, and they looked in their rearview mirror, and he pulled up right behind them. And their first reaction, their first response was to try to start the car to leave. To leave. What are you doing? If you're trying to manifest this dude and he pulls up right behind you, which I frequently talk about, they're not going to fall out of the sky and land on your lap. When they do, don't freaking run away from them. That's what you're trying to manifest. I don't care if you're scared. I don't. If you're scared, face it. Suck it up. Deal with it. This is what you're trying to manifest. Part of that is going to be facing that fear, I assure you. So that's another thing you'll have to do. You'll have to face that fear. If you're like, but I'm scared, I'm afraid to talk to them, I'm trying to manifest a way to talk to people without talking to people, that ain't going to happen. Have a conversation with someone. Talk to them. If you're scared, then face that fear, do it, and that's how you get over that fear. It's like getting on stage. It's scary to think about getting on stage. It's scary when you step up there and you're looking out and there's a whole bunch of people and you're like, ah, right? It's scary. But how do you get over that fear? You do it. Otherwise, you're never going to end up on stage. And if you've never been on stage, oh man, that's an experience unto itself. For those of you that have been on stage, you know what I'm talking about. That performing live, that ability to mess up in front of people. When you do mess up and having to kind of figure out a way to stumble through it, it's awesome. That is awesome. And it is one of the most amazing times for anybody that's sort of into performing. It's incredible. So when you've got the chance to do something, do it by all means. Pretty please. Because that will be a part of this. I call it sun energy. Moon energy is the receiving. Sun energy is the doing. So when you've got the opportunity to do something, do it. If you see that there's something that needs to be done before something can happen, do it. Don't put it off. Don't wait until something else happens to finally do it. No, do it now. Do it now, like Arnold would say, right? Do it. Get out there, make it happen, make your dreams come true. What you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're doing, that's how you're going to get there. Hopefully this makes a big difference. Appreciate all you guys. Love you guys. More great shows coming your way. It's Dan Radio Style.